We are about to witness another chapter in the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, as characters from past entries will also return to provide insight into the new victims who are seeking their help. Whether we will get to see the Fisherman once again is a question that remains unanswered. Is he still a zombie? Yes, he almost became a zombie in the past. Let's take a look at Ben Willis's life, who he was, what shaped him, and how he became the nefarious killer who haunts teenagers with some truly interesting strategies. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Fisherman, the mistake that haunts you to death. While the likes of Freddy Krueger and the murderer from the Scream franchise have had a profound impact and a lasting legacy in the slasher horror genre, The Fisherman almost became a matter of poetic justice. A killer that haunts teenagers who have made a mistake and are trying their best to cover it up with lies and secrets is clearly almost like a devil that targets vulnerable victims. But Ben Willis has a story of his own that turned him from a regular family man to someone who enjoys striking fear into the lives of teenagers who aren't very innocent, to be honest.
Let it go! Let it go.
Before meeting the teenagers, Ben Willis was an everyday man working at the Tower Bay Resort on an island in the Bahamas with his family. He had married a woman named Sarah and had 2 children with her, Susie and Will. It all sounded like they were the perfect family until rumors were spread about a certain mishap that took the family down a dark path. According to some of these rumors, Ben used to beat up his wife, or it was something regarding her having cheated on him, and eventually the family lost all their perfection when Ben seems to have killed her in the honeymoon suite of the hotel, room number 2001. It's essential that you remember these details, as the story later takes us back to the Bahamas, where we learn more about the mysterious Ben Fisher. After the murder, a maid discovered the body through the blood that was spilled all around the room, along with pieces of Sarah's body, but Ben and his children had completely disappeared from the island. The next that is known of Ben is that he had settled in the coastal town of Southport, Maine, where he worked as a fisherman. He had a boat named after his daughter, Sweet Susie, clearly indicative of the love he had for his child. And it was this very love that would bring about the next big event, further adding to the nefarious past of Ben. Susie had managed to get some normalcy in her life, and she even got engaged to her high school sweetheart, David Egan. But things went completely south when the two got into a drunk driving accident on the 4th of July 1995, which resulted in Susie's death while David survived the accident. Ben had already ruined anything normal about his family, and Susie was the last member he wanted to lose. Her death brought back his violent past as he blamed David for her death. He took matters into his own hands and murdered David on the cliffs near the very road where the accident had taken place, about a year after Susie's death on the 4th of July 1996. But there's a chance that it wasn't over yet, and killing David didn't resolve anything inside him. It left something inside him that would be the very seed of thought that would lead him down a further, darker path when he encountered a couple of reckless teenagers. The Southport Massacre. Everything changed. As he was heading back after killing David, he was hit by a car that had 4 teenagers in it: Julie James, Helen Shivers, Ray Bronson, and Barry Cox. Now he had only been hit by the car, and even though it felt like something that could easily kill a person, Ben was just incapacitated. But the kids thought that they had killed the man and started freaking out, only trying to find a way so that they wouldn't be tied to the hit-and-run case. So they left him for dead after dumping him in the water and decided never to mention these events ever again. And it was this very mistake that would haunt them forever, because Ben chose to stalk each of them and then kill them. But this time around, Ben started having some fun with his victims instead of going for a straight kill, because he wanted to spread some paranoia amongst the friends to get to them before he went ahead and killed them. The next year, he started his work by sending a note to Julie that simply said, "I know what you did last summer." And even though the friends hadn't entirely forgotten about the incident, a note like this is enough to create paranoia. His first murder victim in this new chapter of his life was the local teenager, Max Nurick, and it was as if he was intentionally taking his time around killing them. His next victim became Barry, and he was going to follow that up with Helen, but Helen managed to escape him somehow. But Ben was very much dedicated, and he was ready to kill anyone who came on his path, and so he ended up killing the police officer who was escorting Helen and even her sister Elsa. Finally, he managed to kill Helen after quite an adventure, and that's when Julie started trying to look for answers about the person who had now begun to pick and kill her and her friends selectively after haunting them about their past. She managed to identify Ben and also clarify clarify that it was Ben alone whom they had hit last summer, and not the person they thought could have been David. But she still wasn't sure about the identity of the killer, the fisherman, and felt that it could be one of them. And the only other person who had survived was Ray Bronson. As Ray pursued Julie after Helen's death, Ben took the benefit of the doubt and knocked out Ray, managing to bring Julie to his boat. But then he ruined his plan by enjoying his recent killing spree too much and revealing his true motives to Julie before killing her. Right when he goes to attack her, Ray arrives and the two start fighting each other. Even though Ben seemed to have the upper hand, his hand got stuck on some rope, which somehow resulted in it being ripped off, and he was thrown off the boat. Again, his body was never discovered, so there was clearly a chance for him to come back next summer and haunt these two survivors once again, because Julie and Ray were the only two who had managed to make it out of the murderous plot that Ben had almost fulfilled. The Tower Bay Massacre, he's back again. As we had suspected, Ben had survived and was already plotting his next big plan to get Julie killed. This time, he managed to get some help from his son, Ben Willis, and the local radio station. Ben makes an elaborate plan that actually goes close to home since he plans to bring Julie to the Bahamas to kill her without much trouble. The last time he did that, it actually worked, and he managed to get away without any problem from the authorities. So, his son goes in as Will Benson, and while Julie is still trying to let go of the traumatic events of the past, she starts seeing silhouettes of the fisherman here and there. I'm not sure if Ben had already started playing his psychological games, but it was clear that there was a significant impact on Julie's decision to move out of the city. But before going after Julie, Ben goes to kill Ray, as Ray and his friend Dave are traveling towards Julie's college. On the way, they come across the fisherman, and Dave goes in to investigate. He is killed right away. Meanwhile, Ray discovers that Ben is still alive and has become even more daunting by replacing his lost limb with a hook. The body of the fisherman lying on the road was nothing but a dummy dressed to resemble a fisherman. As Ben rushes to kill Ray, he managed to jump down a steep hill, and the fisherman assumes that Ray might have died from the jump. At the same time, Will has managed to get into Julie's friend circle, and when she wins a holiday to the Bahamas from a radio contest, her friend Carla manages to bring Will along with another friend of theirs. As the group reaches the Bahamas, the fisherman has managed to plant quite a lot of interesting details that can haunt Julie while he heads to the island himself. Ben starts killing everyone at the dock, from the dockhand to the pool boy, in some rather creative ways, stabbing them with clippers and whatnot. It's almost as if Ben was once again enjoying horrifying the girls and their friends, because he doesn't kill Julie directly, but in one instance, he ends up locking her in her tanning bed and raising the temperature. But Ben isn't a newcomer to the island, and it seems that someone on the island has become aware of his presence and is already planning to help the kids out before they get butchered one by one. The baggage handler, Estes, is well aware of Ben's work, and he warns Julie about him and gives her a bit of insight about Ben's early life on the island. As the group investigates the dead bodies, they try to seek answers and manage to come across a graveyard with a tombstone that has Julie's name on it. Ben attacks them, and once again, the fisherman goes into his rampage, killing everyone until he reaches Julie. Meanwhile, his son opens up to Julie and shares the truth about his identity, then takes her to the graveyard where they had made a place for her. As they reach there, Ben also joins them after taking off his mask, and the two are just about to kill Julie when Ray shows up with a gun and fires a blank at them. But amid the chaos, Will ends up biting the bullet, and Ben looks at his dead son. Julie takes the gun and shoots at Ben multiple times as his body falls into the open grave, and the mud starts filling up the grave. This time around, it was Ben who completely overlooked the possibility that Ray could have survived the fall from the steep hill. Broken Ridge Massacre, somehow he's back again. The year is 2006 and Ben Willis has become a part of the lore of the town, and kids seem to be pranking around as the fisherman. Clearly, they don't have any idea about the horror that this man had managed to bring to the kids who had actually faced him. Just like the other teenagers, a group of friends, Amber Williams, Zoe Warner, Roger Pack, and Colby Patterson, stage a prank that is based on the idea of the return of the fisherman, and they use a hook that is said to be the very hook Ben Willis used himself. The prank goes smoothly as their friend PJ Davis performs a stunt that goes without a hitch, but then they discover PJ's corpse impaled on a pipe. While the public believes the fisherman is back, the kids decide to keep the entire thing a secret and burn the evidence. A year passes, and the trauma from the failed prank continues to haunt the teenagers as they try to come to terms with the events that occurred. Amber, who had left the town for studies, returns only to be haunted by a message that states, "I know that you did last summer." As Amber tries to comprehend what this could mean, she gets attacked by someone wielding the hook and is attacked near the ski lift. As she and Zoe go to Colby to tell him that someone knows about what truly happened last year, Colby blows them off. And just as he returns to his post as the lifeguard, he discovers, "I know what you did last summer," written on the ground. Meanwhile, Roger, who couldn't cope with the loss and contemplated suicide while glancing at the hook from the prank, the only thing that he had managed to save from the events of the cover-up, ends up getting killed by the fisherman. Colby agrees that something is wrong and goes back to Zoe and Amber, and the three of them go to warn Roger, only to discover his dead body along with a suicide note. You know things are going fun for Ben when the psychological drama is at its peak, and it's enough for the teenagers to run around scared. But this time around, Ben seems to have returned from the afterlife with his zombie-like appearance, and maybe it has something to do with the hook that has managed to bring him back. Even his limb that was chopped off during his encounter with Ray and Julie years back seems to have grown back, even though the hook does seem to be an essential part of his lore. Maybe he just made a deal with the devil to continue his hunt for teenagers trying to cover up their mistakes and move on. He continues with his murder spree, but this time around, he has also managed to acquire some powers that allow him not to be killed, along with the idea of clearly being a ghost that can take life. Even after having these powers, he only kills these teenagers whenever he gets them alone with Zoe being brutally killed after her band performance where she was stabbed in the stomach and thrown over a balcony. Colby gets a much more painful death where the fisherman hooks him during one of his swims and later stabs him right through his mouth with a hook. As Amber and Lance are held responsible and taken in by a deputy, Ben goes after them, and the deputy starts shooting at him to no effect as Ben continues on his path and kills the deputy. Amber and Colby take control of a car and run him down, only for him to get back up and reveal the rotting face, the very face that had been involved in a number of murders for the past 10 years in Southport and the Bahamas. As the duo tries to get away with the car, Willis somehow teleports into the car and is about to attack them, only to be cut by a hook that Amber uses on him. Before they could continue to attack him, Ben vanishes into thin air, which makes them wonder if the hook does affect him. They run into a warehouse where Willis attacks them once again, but they manage to impale him and throw him into a thresher that clearly appears to have killed him. But someone who can withstand gunshots, being run over while managing to teleport and disappear into the thin air, might make it out of something as simple as getting stabbed and thrown into a thresher. So it isn't over yet because just a year later, while Amber is traveling across the desert, her tire blows out. As she gets off the main road, something can be seen creeping behind her. It was Ben Willis with his hook attempting to kill Amber.
You can't run. You can't hide.
2025, the legacy continues, a new killer in town. Once again, a mistake made by a group of friends has brought back a killer that has haunted Southport for quite some time. As friends, Ava, Danica, Milo, Teddy, and Stevie ended up causing an accident that resulted in the death of an individual who was trying to swerve out of their way. They would become the targets of an individual dressed in a fisherman's costume with a hook in his hand. Everything is the same, every single threat, as the friends return to town a year later, with each of them struck by fear from this individual, who seems to be copying the methods of Ben Willis, who has been dead for a while now. The friends wonder if Julie or Ray might have the answers, but Julie is warned about her actions by Danica, who was one of the victims when Ben Willis had first struck the town. Turns out the story has taken a lot more inspiration from the Scream franchise, as Stevie, who was present during the accident that resulted in the death of the individual, had been orchestrating the death of her friends. Why? Because the accident had caused the death of someone really close to her, Sam Cooper, the only person who had stuck around with her during her times of coping with her losses. In order not to make her revenge feel too obvious, she decided to go the fisherman's way and carry out the murders in a manner that would remind people of the Southport massacres. However, she wasn't completely alone in this, as the threats and patterns might have felt too similar to be attributed to someone from a completely different generation, repeating these actions. Ray was helping Stevie, yes, Ray himself, who was her boss and her mentor, someone who had promised her father that he would look after her. The past events had left him completely traumatized, and I guess the fact that he wasn't together with Julie also had taken its toll. So he decided to take some action against the idea that the town had forgotten its violent history. After going through some brutal murders, Stevie gets shot and thrown into the ocean while Ray confronts the final victims, only for Julie to arrive on the scene and stop him. Yes, Julie completed a circle because one of her earlier suspicions during the original massacres that Ray might be involved had come true this time around. After all, Ray had actually taken on the mantle of the very killer that had ruined their lives. Julie tries to stop Ray, but in vain. Finally, it is Ava who takes the shot and kills him with a spear gun. But is the legacy of the fisherman over? No. Remember the words of Ben Willis, "When you leave a man for dead, make sure he's really dead." And while Ray did get killed, it was Stevie who might have managed to make it out of the ocean, and she might have enough knowledge to continue her killing spree as the fisherman. Marvelous verdict. Now, some people might not consider the arc of Ben Willis from 2006 as the true one because the movie was a straight-to-DVD release that didn't seem to draw anything from its previous entries in the franchise. However, we wonder if he will return to haunt some more teenagers, as Ray and Julie are coming back to help the teenagers who are trying to let go of a memory from their past. Ben Willis is clearly one of the best entries in the slasher horror genre at a time when people were also getting along with the Scream franchise, and it would be fair to say the Scream actually helped the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.